mechanical rebellion. Most people look at the RUF CTR3 and see a stretched Porsche 911. They are fundamentally wrong. To understand the CTR3, you have to look past the carbon fiber skin and stare directly at its skeleton. In Stuttgart, the 911 is a religion, and in that religion, the engine belongs behind the rear axle. It's a layout that has defined Porsche for 60 years. But Alois Ruf isn't a priest of that religion, he's an architect of speed. He knew that if he wanted to break the 230-mile-per-hour barrier with stability, the engine had to move. The Multimatic Alliance. Ruf didn't just cut a 911 in half. They partnered with Multimatic in Canada, the engineering wizards responsible for the Ford GT and the Aston Martin 177. Together, they created a hybrid chassis that is a masterpiece of compromise and genius. The front end, from the nose to the A-pillar, is sourced from the 997 generation GT3. Why? Because Porsche's front-end crash structures and steering geometry are world-class. But from the seats backward, everything changes. Multimatic developed a dedicated steel tubular space frame. Think of it as a birdcage of high-strength steel that houses the engine and transmission. This allowed Ruf to extend the wheelbase by nearly 11 inches compared to a standard 911. 11 inches might not sound like much in a pickup truck, but in a supercar, it's the difference between a twitchy death trap and a high-speed precision instrument. But moving the engine wasn't just about balance. It created a massive problem. How do you keep the rear wheels on the ground when 700 pound-feet of torque is trying to twist the entire frame into a pretzel? The answer was a suspension system stolen directly from the world of Formula One. Look at the rear suspension of a 911 and you'll see traditional struts. Look at the CTR3 and you'll see art. RUF implemented a horizontal, push-rod-actuated coilover system. The shocks don't sit vertically, they lie flat on top of the transmission. When you hit a bump, the force is transferred through a rocker arm to the horizontal springs. This isn't just for show. By moving the heavy dampers inboard, RUF reduced unsprung mass and allowed for a much lower center of gravity. It also allowed them to fit massive 335-section rear tires without interfering with the suspension geometry. The carbon Kevlar skin. Every body panel on the CTR3 is bespoke. No steel, no aluminum, just a proprietary blend of carbon fiber and Kevlar. RUF needed the car to be light, but more importantly, they needed it to be stiff. At 230 miles per hour, the air isn't a gas, it's a solid wall. If your body panels flex even a millimeter, the aerodynamics collapse. The integrated roll cage is another RUF signature. Unlike a bolted-in cage that rattles, the CTR3's cage is part of the car's structural DNA. It ties the front 911 structure to the rear Multimatic frame, creating a monocoque-like rigidity that Porsche's production cars simply couldn't match at the time. Listen to that. That's not the hollow thud of a carbon fiber door. That's the sound of a structural vault closing. This is why the CTR3 weighs only 3,086 pounds, or 1,400 kilograms, while carrying a massive twin-turbocharged heart.
The heart of the beast. If the chassis is the skeleton, the engine is the CTR3's unstable soul. To build this car, RUF didn't look for a new engine. They went back to the legendary M97.70, the 3.8-liter flat-six from the 911 Turbo. But they didn't just tune it, they tore it down to the bare block and reimagined what internal combustion could do when stripped of corporate liability. The twin-turbo nightmare. RUF fitted two massive, bespoke KKK turbochargers. In a standard Porsche, turbos are designed for linear power delivery, a smooth, polite wave of torque. In the CTR3, they are designed for violence. These turbos cram air into the cylinders at a rate that would crack a standard engine block. To compensate, RUF installed a custom-designed intake manifold and massive air-to-air intercoolers positioned just behind the doors. But here's the problem. When you mid-mount a flat six and slap two giant turbos on it, you create a localized sun. The heat soak in the early prototypes was catastrophic. Engineers found that after 3 laps of hard driving, the engine bay temperatures reached levels that began to melt plastic sensors. This heat issue led to one of the CTR3's most unique and expensive design features, a cooling solution so aggressive it changed the very shape of the car's roof. The roof-mounted induction. Look at the roof of the CTR3. That massive air scoop isn't just for aesthetics, it's a ram air induction system that feeds the hungry twin turbos. By forcing cold air from the high pressure zone above the roof directly into the engine, RUF managed to drop intake temperatures by nearly 20 degrees Celsius. In the world of 700-plus horsepower cars, 20 degrees is the difference between a world record and a blown head gasket.
Power is useless if you can't control it, and the way the CTR3 handles power is primitive. While Porsche was perfecting the lightning-fast dual-clutch PDK, RUF stayed stubborn. They equipped the CTR3 with a transverse 6-speed sequential manual gearbox. This isn't your grandfather's stick shift. There's no synchro mesh to save you here. It's a straight-cut gear system designed for racing. In the US market, where drivers were becoming used to the seamless shift of a Ferrari or Lamborghini, the CTR3 was a slap in the face. Every gear change feels like a gunshot. If you shift too slowly, the car jerks violently. If you shift too fast without matching the revs, the rear tires will momentarily lock up, threatening to throw you into the nearest guardrail. It is a gearbox that demands respect, or it will take your dignity. The oil starvation crisis. During high-speed testing at Nardo, RUF encountered a terrifying mechanical failure. At 200 miles per hour, the lateral G-forces were so high that the engine oil was being pushed to one side of the pan, leaving the crankshaft bone dry. The solution? A sophisticated dry sump lubrication system with an external oil tank. It added weight, it added complexity, and it added thousands to the production cost. But it ensured that even at 1.5 G, the heart of the CTR3 remained lubricated. The zombie engine factor. Much like the M113 V8 in the Mercedes W220 we discussed earlier, the RUF spec M97 block proved to be surprisingly bulletproof. Once the heat and oil issues were solved, these engines began clocking high miles. We've seen CTR3s with over 50,000 miles, unheard of for a boutique supercar. Why? Because RUF over-engineered the internals, forged pistons, titanium connecting rods, and a crankshaft balanced to a fraction of a gram. The legacy of rebellion. To the world, Pfaffenhausen is just a quiet dot on the map of Bavaria. But in the late 1930s, it was the birthplace of a rebel. Alois RUF Sr. started a service station, but his son, Alois RUF Jr., had a different vision. He didn't just want to fix cars, he wanted to perfect them. In the US, we often think of car companies as massive conglomerates with skyscrapers and thousands of lobbyists. RUF is the opposite. It's a family dinner table where some of the world's fastest decisions are made. The manufacturer war. This is the most misunderstood part of the RUF story, especially for the American audience. In the 1980s, RUF achieved something nearly impossible. The German Federal Vehicle Transport Authority recognized them as an independent manufacturer. When a CTR3 is born, it doesn't get a Porsche 17-digit VIN. It gets a RUF VIN starting with W09. Why does this matter? Because it allowed RUF to bypass the tuner stigma. But it also meant they had to crash test their own cars. Think about that, a small family company destroying multi-million-dollar prototypes just to prove to the government that their carbon Kevlar tubs were safe. But the real battle wasn't with the government, it was with Stuttgart. Porsche looked at the CTR3 and realized it was doing things their own flagship, the Carrera GT, couldn't. This created a tension that almost ended the partnership forever. The Porsche paradox. The relationship between RUF and Porsche is like a master and a student who has surpassed the teacher. Porsche provides RUF with bodies in white, bare shells without engines or interiors. But with the CTR3, RUF stopped using the shells. They only used the front structure. This was a bold move. It was RUF saying, your rear engine design is the limit, and we are going beyond it. For years, rumors swirled that Porsche executives weren't happy that a small shop was building a 911-style car that could embarrass their top-tier supercars on the Autobahn. Yet, they couldn't stop them. RUF's engineering was so respected that many Porsche engineers secretly spent their weekends in Paffenhausen, helping Aloys push the boundaries. Bringing the CTR3 to the US was a legal minefield. Because RUF is a manufacturer, every car had to meet US EPA and DOT standards. Most boutique brands would have given up, but RUF developed specific ECU maps just for US fuel and emissions. They understood the American buyer, someone who wants the prestige of a Porsche, but the soul of a renegade. The CTR3 became the if you know car of the Silicon Valley elite and Wall Street titans. The zombie investment. Why do these cars survive while other supercars end up in salvage yards? It's the legacy factor. An RUF CTR3 isn't a depreciating asset, it's a blue-chip investment. Since its launch, values have skyrocketed. While a standard 911 Turbo from 2007 has lost half its value, a CTR3 is now a multi-million-dollar ticket to the most exclusive car shows in the world, like Pebble Beach. It's the ultimate zombie car. It refuses to die because the community of owners and the factory itself treat every car as a living piece of history. RUF still services every CTR3 they ever built. You don't just buy a car, you join a family. The final verdict, the satisfaction. We started this journey asking why the CTR3 is the most dangerous car you've never heard of. It's dangerous because it challenges the status quo. It proves that a small team with a singular vision can out-engineer a billion-dollar corporation. The W220 Mercedes we talked about earlier failed because it lost its soul to cost-cutting. The RUF CTR3 succeeded because it sacrificed everything, profit, safety, and corporate relations, on the altar of pure mechanical perfection. If you've made it this far, you're not just a car fan, you're an engineering enthusiast. Tell me in the comments, is the CTR3 a better legacy for Porsche than the 911 itself? Hit subscribe to join our ecosystem of deep dive content. We'll see you in the next breakdown.